Brendon Leung studied Bachelor of Visual Arts and Master of Design at Unitec. Through those, and since then, he has been part of several group exhibitions, and he's also done solo exhibitions. Recently, he's also been accepted and completed the Karekare house residency and is one of the represented artists at the Trish Clark Gallery. Brendon's painting style is composed of abstract geometries with strong affinity to nature. His relationship with surroundings is not only shown in his paintings, but also in his process itself as well. In that, he likes to use found wood for his paintings, and he likes to use organic materials such as coffee and tea. A big part of his artistic expression is also drawn out in the form of ceramics, and I'm lucky enough to have one of his pieces, which I've been cherishing for several years now. I'm always inspired by those who constantly love and hone their crafts. And to me, Brendon has always been a prime example of that. In this episode, Brendon and I talk about how he found out he could not live without painting, how he got out of that slump, as well as how he got into art and developed his own style to the point where he is today, as well as his philosophy and a lot of other things. I appreciate you listening to this, guys. I am grateful for you. This is Everything Goes with Pascal podcast, and I hope you enjoy my conversation with Brendon Leung. Yes, sir. Thank you for having me here.
No, thank you for having me on your podcast.
My pleasure. I've been wanting to have an artist on for a while. So yeah, I've been giddy about this whole week. I've been doing some research too, you know.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Then I think first of all, probably one of the best backdrops that this episode ever had.
Specifically set designed?
Yeah.
No. No.
So this is the usual.
This is just my normal setup,
Yeah.
really. Yeah.
Cool. For those people that are listening, you should watch too, because you see some beautiful. You're saying unfinished.
Yeah, actually,
Unfinished.
these are all just starting. So I recently had a exhibition at the Trish Clark Gallery, inspired by my residency at Karekare. And so it's inspired by like nature and seascapes and lighting, architecture, and things like that. But yeah, so that show kind of just sold out, and I don't have any paintings left. And so I have to start again, and these are just the starting sort of surfaces, preparations, before I get into the more conceptual side and try to really dig in.
So that's Karekare house residency, right?
Yes.
Yeah. What's that?
It's like so artists sometimes have a residency where they kind of pay you a stipend to paint for a certain period of time. And it's usually specifically location based. So you have to kind of get inspired by the environment and produce artworks for maybe an exhibition, things like that. And yeah.
So it's like a kind of like a scholarship kind of thing?
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah. How'd you get into that? Do you have to apply?
Yeah,
for
you
that
have to
and
apply.
stuff?
There's
Yeah.
quite a rigorous process with
Is
a
that
lot of
right?
these things. There's
Yeah.
many artists in New Zealand, but not many like sort of facilities for that. So a lot of big famous artists applied at the same time, and I was like, oh, I'm not gonna get this. I'm not gonna get this. And then like on like New Year's or something, they emailed me and said, congratulations, you've got this residency.
That's so cool. How do you know the competition for that?
I think that's confidential. I don't know any of the artists, but I've worked with the organizers before with a lot of artist events and things like that. So I'm pretty close with them.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was just lucky, to be honest.
Yeah. So for that, did you have to Oh, they would have known your work, right? What your art was like, and
Yeah. But they also have external moderators from other galleries or curators and things that come in.
Sure.
They don't really have a say in who actually gets in. It's like down to the panel, really. Yeah.
Is Karekare a place?
Yes.
Like a region?
So Karekare is kind of near Piha.
Okay.
So have you been to Piha?
Yeah, I've been to Pia. I love that place.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
So
Oh,
good.
the sunset there.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Have you seen the sunset in Piha?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I went with a friend, a male friend, so it wasn't like a romantic.
Oh.
But I wish it was a romantic. You know? Yeah. I love that place.
Yeah, like we went during our residency with a friend, and the sunset was like amazing. The sun was like as low as it can be, just above the water. The sort of lighting and the colors was like phenomenal. Yeah.
So you lived there for during
Yeah.
the residency? I guess residency, right? Like
yeah,
you
yeah,
lived there,
So it's, you get to stay in a studio or a place. This one actually had all the facilities for kitchens, and it's just a house that you get to live in for a while and just produce paintings or whatever art.
Yeah. How long was that? How long were you there for?
This one was 2 months. So I was out there for 2 months.
And full-time painting.
Full-time painting. Don't have to worry about like jobs
Yeah.
or money, or which is like almost like heaven to an artist.
Is that your goal? Is that what you want?
Full-time artist?
Yeah.
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
But I don't know, in today's economy, it's quite hard. But
yeah.
that is definitely the goal. Yeah.
So you love that. What was the schedule like? Is that kind of, did you do it like still kind of 9 to 5, you know? Is that what you did, or?
Typically when I'm just like when in Auckland, like here in my daily life, I kind of do the 9 to 5 and have a part-time job and do all that because you have, you know, you want to work around other people's schedules and things like that. But when I was left to my own devices, I often stayed until like 4 a.m. Painting.
In Karekare?
Yeah.
Really?
Like
4 a.m.?
I don't know, maybe I'm just a night owl or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. Naturally, I just wanted to keep painting, and that desire just kept driving me until I was like completely exhausted. And then I'll like knock out onto the bed, wake up and do it again.
So what time would you start?
Probably like 10, 11, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, 10, 11.
Yeah.
Bit of breakfast, have breaks for lunch, things like that. And yeah.
Does it ever, because it's a creative process, right?
Yeah.
But is it one of those things that once you get started, I don't know, I guess with like say coding, which is like my 9 to 5,
Yeah.
quite often like I know what I need to do. There's like a clear end goal in sight, and I just need to punch that out.
Yeah.
You know, in this case, typing on my keyboard.
Yeah.
But with like creative process, that's not always the case, right? Like, or is it?
It's quite difficult because each artist has their own sort of process depending on what they're making or producing or but for me, like it's almost like you're completely self-directed and you have to find the inspiration, you have to find what you want to say, what kind of things you use. So everything is in consideration of that. So for me, I was coming out of a sort of slump in my art practice.
Okay. In what way? How would you define a slump?
It was quite difficult because I had a new job as a full-time manager at a cocktail company. And I love working there. Don't get me wrong. I love that place. But managing was a full-time thing, even overtimes and things like that.
Yeah.
And I had no time to really delve into my art practice. And then after maybe a year of that, I was like I felt not so great in my sort of person, I guess.
Okay. Do you mean that because obviously you love creating, so not doing that for a year would have been pretty critical in a lot of ways?
Yeah, quite critical. I think that time was a big learning curve. Like, I just felt that I needed to create. Like,
Yeah.
like by the end of the year, I went to the Karekare residency with an open mind, trying to restart the sort of engine and the momentum that you kind of gain through art practice. And luckily, it really revived me.
Yeah.
And I found out that I absolutely need to paint, absolutely need to create, like to, it's like part of my essence, part of my being.
That's crazy.
Yeah, yeah. So it's a really big revelation. I always knew that inside of my heart that I needed to do it.
Yeah.
But to go through that experience with struggle and to realize that you actually need to create as a person, otherwise you might go mental. Yeah.
That's
it was a really
crazy.
big thing.
How did you feel when you didn't paint for a year?
Terrible.
Yeah, like, because I'm just trying to gauge, like, because for me, right?
Yeah.
I haven't painted for 29 years.
Oh, wow.
You know, like,
yeah.
you know, for my entire life, basically. And I am pretty happy pretty happy not doing that. But of course, for you, painting is, like you say, it's like it's your food, it's your air, it's your water. I wonder what makes it, like, it makes that for you, but not for me. You know what I mean? Like, how did you feel? Did you feel like, do you work out?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you feel like it's kind of like a workout where you don't work out for like a month, say, you feel pretty shit. If you haven't sweat for, gone for a run or like, exercise for a month.
You get pretty antsy,
You get pretty
jittery.
yeah.
Like, hey, I need to get this sort of stuff out.
So I get that.
Yeah.
Is it kind of similar in that sense or different?
It's slightly similar, but on a more severe degree.
Oh shit, more severe?
Yeah.
Shit.
So like, imagine like, let's see, like you have this passion, this drive, your reason to live almost, and you're not doing that thing. You just feel absolutely like terrible. You feel like depressed.
Yeah.
You feel really down on yourself. And you kind of lose purpose. And so that's a pretty dark place to be.
Yeah.
And so when you're not doing that, you just feel awful. But when you start doing that and get that momentum, you feel like the top of the world. You know? Like that's what you want to live for. This is something that I feel that I can do to maybe help society and myself and just contribute to like the human existence. And it's like kind of my calling almost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, how did you feel about having something like that? Because I think on one hand, there are very few people that find something like that for themselves, right?
Right.
A lot of people, like, they don't enjoy their job. They don't really have a hobby outside their job. Like, so I think it's a blessing to find something like that. But on the other hand, I don't know, like, knowing what you want to do, but not being able to do that full time could also be a bit hurtful too.
Yeah. I'm extremely fortunate to find something so early, like during high school, that purpose. It's definitely something you kind of like have to grow through and learn for yourself that this is what it's meant to be. Like, this is the way that you want to live your life and things like that. But it is sometimes hurtful because artists are also their worst critics as well. And you're always criticizing, doubting yourself. It's an extremely hard sort of life to live in terms of just normal society. But it's something that I just can't live without. And there's no other way for me, I guess.
So when did you realize that, oh shit, this is my thing?
Yeah.
So high school, did you say?
So I did start it in high school. I wasn't too familiar with art. I was in not the greatest sort of situation mentally, but I found a sort of salvation in the art room, a place that I could relax, be myself, kind of express. Kind of painting was almost like a processing life in a way. And I just found salvation. It helped that the teacher was like not so rigid.
Okay.
And he would often, like, when we come into the lunch, like, normally you're not allowed in the art room during lunchtime.
Right.
But my teacher was so loose. Every time you came in, if you brought food, he would tax you. So take a little bite, and then it's like, oh, what do you got there? Oh, okay. Come in.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Nothing's for free, you know?
Yeah. So I found that sort of inkling of art, and that was my sort of something I really enjoyed. Like, it was quite purposeful, quite fulfilling in my life, and I kind of ran with that all the way up to the my uni. And when uni happened, when I was surrounded by art and artists and things like that, like, I had the most fun time in my life. Like, to purely paint and create and things like that, I just felt like that was my calling. And then once that, before Karekare, when I was struggling, that was the moment where I really, really, it sunk into me, like, deep in my heart, that this is you, this is your life, this is what you need to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes you don't realize how big of a part it is for you until it's gone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So that, man, but how did you, so when in the high school, when you, like, were doing painting was it mainly painting back then, or?
I dabbled. I did sort of art history, painting, photography, design, but I felt painting was the one.
Yeah. Was were you influenced by your parents? Were they into art, or is that something you saw online, or how did you get into that?
So to start off, I guess my parents weren't into that. You know, the normal Asian immigrant sort of story. They want you to be a doctor and engineer or whatever to make a good living. They want the best for you, and that was the sort of most secure sort of situation. But I'm kind of a little bit of a rebel. I was like, nah, fuck that. And I was just like, you know, do whatever I felt like was right to me and my being. So how I kind of started and found art. So I was not really like creative or art inclined naturally.
Okay.
But throughout the high school, I kept jumping streams. Like there's do you know about streams?
No.
So it's like you do a test at the beginning before you go to high school, and then depending on the IQ test, you get ranked into like specific classes.
This is in New Zealand?
Yeah, New Zealand.
Shit.
Yeah.
I think maybe we just had like the dumb stream and
So I was definitely, I did something stupid, which I now realize is that I hated tests, I hated school. When that test came, I just ticked randomly and left.
Wait, this is like just a general knowledge
knowledge kind of IQ test kind of thing. And so they put me on the bottom stream.
Of course they would.
Yeah, of course. Like, it's so stupid. But going throughout like a high school, quite quickly realized that I was not meant to be in that class.
Yeah.
So every term I'd keep jumping up streams.
Okay.
And we have these sort of electives, which not electives, but like compulsory sort of exploratory classes, kind of like music, art, and PE, and all those sorts of things. And every time I kept jumping streams, I would miss all the other classes and only do art every term.
Okay, but you have to take all the other classes, right?
Because like there's a kind of rotation sort of system. Like one class does art, and then next term they move and do music.
Okay.
And, you know, going through that cycle, every class that I went to so happened to be like that was the time for art. Yeah. So I kept jumping, and then I just kept doing art over and over again. I don't know if it's serendipity or it was meant to be.
What's serendipity?
It's just kind of how things happen, like coincidence kind of thing.
Or I don't know if it's the universe way of saying like this is what you're supposed to be doing.
Maybe,
you know?
Exactly. Yeah, maybe. Do
you believe in that or not?
I'm not sure, but it kind of feels like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard to ignore the fact that you know, that it happened like that.
Yeah,
You
like
know?
everything through life feels like it's guiding you towards something,
Yeah.
but maybe it's coincidence, maybe it's not,
Yeah.
but you kind of just have to take it on and kind of process that. Yeah,
So yeah.
throughout the years, every time we would finish art class, the teachers would constantly in the report say, "Hey, I think you've got something. Maybe you should continue this in elective when you have the choice to do it." So like we had to pick our classes in the next year instead of going through the exploratory term phase. And so I just said, okay, I'll give this a go. I'm not really great at it personally, I feel, but just give it a go. And then from then it's just a process and you just keep improving and kind of it just felt right to me that
Yeah.
I did that.
Back then, what were you painting mainly?
Yeah. I was painting mostly landscapes and seascapes and things like that
Yeah.
because even to my work now, I feel like there's a affinity to nature and there's some sort of like tranquil sort of inner peace that I feel in nature and I'm trying to capture that through my artwork in some ways. Yeah.
Yeah, so you're already feeling that back in high school, but I guess it's were you trying to paint was it a bit more abstract or were you trying to paint it like photorealistic at all or what was your interest back then?
I think I was always drawn to the abstract, but because you have to learn through the sort of try to do like photorealistic and things like that, I felt drawn to the abstraction for some reason. Like it's just like an intuition almost. Like this is how I feel like I can connect to artwork and things like that.
Yeah. So was it what did it show looking back at your like high school paintings now and comparing it to like what you're producing these days? Can you see some similarities or like the beginning of things? Because I think you have a very strong style and preference now, right?
Oh, wow.
Would you say that?
Yeah, I think so. I
Yeah.
think so, yeah.
Because I mean, I think for several years, you've done. I don't know. Like I don't know how to describe it. Like, this is a problem me coming from like a non-artist space, right? But
Yeah.
I think your paintings that you do on like a found wood,
Yeah.
and when you paint it, would you say like a lot of shapes on the medium that you find? Is
Yeah.
it how you would describe it? On like your current
My
style?
current kind of style is it's hard to describe because it's a
Yeah.
mix of many different things. But basically, it's abstract geometry inspired by architecture and colors and things like that. And I'm greatly inspired by artists like Mark Rothko, Agnes Martin,
Oh wow.
Callum Innes, all those sorts of great artists. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think having that strong of an your own style, like I wonder if that was already showing back in high school.
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
I think I had this sort of that feeling. There's like a feeling that I'm trying to chase. Imagine like this sort of aura that's an orb or something. And each time you try to paint something, you want to get closer to it. But every time you go closer to it, it goes further
Okay.
and moves further, but it drives you to try different things in different ways. And so when I was just starting, I had that feeling. So that feeling has always run through my artwork, even up till now. But as a beginning sort of art student, you have no experience. You want to explore different ways of making, different mediums, different brushes and things like that. So over time, then you develop more of a style or just ways of exploring in process and things like that.
How did you? When was the first time would you say your kind of current style, the era of the current style started?
Oh, I feel like I'm always trying to adapt and adjust and try something, push myself to try something new. But I guess this sort of phase currently started in maybe third year uni.
Third year uni.
From then, yeah.
So before then, what were you painting?
I was actually painting the same ideas, but on canvas and things like that. I feel like process is, and the mediums you use is a large part of how the aesthetics come out of the painting.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I still remember you talking about that you enjoy like painting on like found canvases, found wood, and how like when you paint things and then after it's dried or something, correct me if I'm wrong, but like a new color like sips through it from the old painting.
When you were coming, when you came to my studio,
yeah,
did I explain it that
yeah,
time?
I think when I was at your studio or the Arts Trust Center when you had an exhibition there. Yeah. I remember talking to you about that.
Yeah.
Which is really cool.
Yeah. I guess that kind of started just from experimenting. Like I use found wood and found surfaces because I feel like there's a history behind them. Like often I'll jump into like green gorilla bins and skip bins and off the side of the road and things like that to find these pieces of surfaces like wood and things like that. I'll try to refurbish them a little bit, but not try to adjust it until the point where it's like a brand new thing. I want to keep that history because I feel like in a way it is a piece of life. Like it's been through things, like people throwing that out. It's been like warped by nature and just conditions in life, and just like us, you know, like I feel like it's a reflection of life. Like we go through things, we have scars, we have all that sort of thing, and I want to highlight those in my paintings. I don't want to just cover it. I want to bring that up to the surface. And so in a way to do that, I found these surfaces, used plaster, and found ways to bring out those sort of what do you call embellishes, not embellishment, kind of just the scars and the history to the surface.
What's plaster?
Plaster is a type of, you know how you build houses, right? And then you put up the panels. And to cover up the sort of seams in between the panels, there's a thing called jib plaster. So when I was in uni, I would use that, like industrial materials and things like that. But I'd also use like linseed oils and random things to try bring the sort of scars and things from the found pieces of surfaces and bring it up to the surface with paint and things like that, and try to balance that chaos. I love like chaos in paintings. Like it's a sort of balancing act between the unpredictability of the materials, because I often use organic materials as well, like teas and coffees and things like that. And also found surfaces, like it's all up to chance almost. And to find a way to balance that chaos with composition and color and paint and all those sorts of things is like what I'm really interested in. And
have you got much criticism for your art at all? Like, is that kind of common thing that artists or art students go through?
I mean, we'd host like weekly crit sessions in school and things like that, and with the lecturers, and they'll say, oh, that's not really working, or you know, I think that's the same with music, right? Like, yeah.
What was the main criticism that you got for this style?
One of my lecturers really encouraged it, because the results were just so different and so almost profound. But he would give you little advice to lead you into a thought where maybe you should consider the materials more closely, and what you use, because after a while they kind of... Actually, I did get quite a important criticism from my first show at the Trish Clark Gallery. So I did my master's and finished it in 2020. But a lot of the paintings actually started cracking
Oh, sure.
and bending and just falling apart because of the environment, because the sun was so strong in one room
At the gallery?
at the gallery that sometimes some of them would start to fall apart, because my whole idea about the chaos and things like that, I'd go to the deepest end of chaos and try to like mash whole bunch of different mediums together. And when you add all those things, they're not so stable.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, is that like if you add tea leaves to like found wood?
Yeah,
like,
and plastering
coffee,
over.
yeah.
And then often, sometimes I'd even use like clay, because I was interested in ceramics and try to bring those together. But sometimes they just don't work.
Oh,
yeah.
And when you saw that, did you feel it like that? I don't know, like, because I could see that maybe part of you maybe was happy because it's more chaotic.
Yeah.
It's more chaos added into it, right?
Like, yes, the chaos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, like you said, one of the things that you enjoy doing is balancing this chaos, and maybe the added chaos puts that off balance.
Yeah. It was quite gut-wrenching, to be honest.
Yeah.
I did exhibit these in a sort of commercial gallery. Some people did buy a few pieces, and when they brought them home, it's so fragile that it would sometimes crack or break or things like that in sort of weather conditions, overheating and things like that. In my studio is where it's quite cool. It was fine for like months and months, but in different environments, you have to consider that, which I didn't know, and it was a big learning. So the criticism that my gallerist, Trish, gave me was like, you got to really consider carefully the things that you find, the things you put in, because it's quite upsetting for someone who appreciates your art and really values it for it to fall apart, you know. But part of me was like, that's part of the work, you know. Like,
it could be, yeah.
Like, it could be, but at the end of the day, like, it's quite upsetting for people to invest so much money as well, and an emotional investment into the painting, and for it to like just suddenly just break. It's quite gut-wrenching, and I felt quite sort of hurt by it.
Yeah.
And I felt so sorry. So I had to really consider the materials more carefully, which I feel like I have done. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess it's a good opportunity for growth, but yeah, I can see that you would have, I don't know, like, yeah, I can feel it. I can feel your pain over here.
Yeah. Yeah, because especially with my artwork, I want what I want the paintings, and it's a big ask, but what I want from my paintings is to create spaces, even almost emotional spaces through color and composition and things like that, that people can emotionally sort of inhabit when they look at the artwork, and hopefully reflect and reconnect themselves. And so I have this big lofty goal, and for it to like suddenly just utterly shatter is like, quite hurtful.
Yeah. Have you, because you use like you say, you use like a lot of organic material. Does it ever go moldy at all?
I think I mix it enough with paints and things like that,
Yeah.
that it hasn't molded yet.
And I guess like if you use tea and coffee, like they're already pretty dry, right?
Yeah.
So it's quite unlikely to go moldy anyway. Yeah.
Yeah. I think because the plaster surfaces that I use are quite so porous that there's almost no moisture after it dries. So it doesn't really mold. Yeah.
When did you first started using used, like found wood and found canvases and things?
It was kind of like a tradition in the place I studied at Unitec that many of the senior students kind of leave, but they also leave a whole bunch of materials behind for the next sort of generation of artists or the next following years.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they would also leave like furniture for you and things like
Hell
that,
yeah.
and fridges, which is fun. And it's just like, really great to experience and live in it the way they did and things like that. So often I found all these surfaces that no one would want. Like everyone wants to go to the shop, buy canvas, stretcher, and make brand new and just do it themselves in that way. But I feel like it was a sort of missed opportunity. Like I feel like it had so much life in it that it needs to be, because people just look at it as trash, right? And I felt like it had so much life to it that it was a shame to just throw out. And so I wanted to bring that, to highlight that to people.
And before that, were you already doing your current style on like a new canvases and like
that was
fresh wood?
I initially worked on canvas.
On canvas.
Just the same. So we'd actually go to the workshop, make our own stretches, buy canvases and stretch them and do all that. So I did a lot of oil painting and things like that. But when I found that opportunity, I just had to run with it.
Yeah.
And just find a way to paint with it. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's cool. Yeah. When was the first time you did like this style of like the geometry and you know, like that the geometry style?
Yeah.
Was it a uni or?
Yeah, during uni, I was deeply fascinated by architecture, interior spaces, how interior and architecture spaces influence how we feel. Like I'm very in tune with that, like in the way I organize my studio, there's a flow, and always interested in people's spaces and how they live. And it's almost like a reflection of their psychology in a way, like how they set up their room. So every time I'd go to like a friend's house, I'd like look through their stuff. It's like, hey, can I look through stuff? And then they're like, yeah, go ahead. And then I'd look through their drawers and, oh, that's fascinating. Oh, really? Bit nosy, I know. But yeah.
That's funny.
Deeply fascinated by people's psychology and spaces, architectural spaces, how they inform how we feel and how we inhabit. And it's kind of like a cycle, because the way you organize a space can also influence how you feel, but how you feel can also influence how you organize a space, you know? So deeply interested in those sort of ideas through painting as well. So I started creating these abstract sort of interior spaces so that people can sort of inhabit with their emotions and things and how they sort of feel. Yeah.
Did you ever delve into architecture?
Yeah. In a way, like I've always been interested, but I did try to consider an architectural job, but I was rubbish at it.
You're rubbish at architecture?
Just graphic design and all that kind of stuff. I was terrible. Like measurements and math and just bad.
Yeah? How so?
I was just not good at it. Like I'm not sure, but I just wasn't good at it. Like, yeah.
Did you enjoy it or not?
I did enjoy it.
Okay.
Sometimes it was frustrating because I couldn't get the right angles or whatever. But yeah, just wasn't great at it. The way I kind of delved into the architectural stuff is that our lecturers would recommend us to do Pinterest.
Okay.
So we have all these boards and things like that would try pin for like influence and artist models and things like that. And my lecturer was looking through my Pinterest board, and he was like, "Why are you pinning so much architecture? Like this is crazy. Like you've got thousands and thousands of architecture, but you never really bring it into your artwork. Why don't you try do something with it?" And then so I was like, okay. So, but what he was meaning is that you should build something like out of wood and actual spaces and things, which maybe is my future plan, but I decided to put it into my paintings and see how that would go.
You did something like that recently at your recent exhibition, right? With the like a three-way painting almost. Was it in your recent one? Maybe that was in your master's
exhibition.
exhibition.
So it was in my master's exhibition in 2020. So the way I'd kind of install the artworks is quite unconventional. Usually it's like you set it up eye level and then you just set it along the gallery in different spaces. But the way I wanted to do it, I made so many different sizes, and because they're all found, I don't have sort of
True.
control of how big they are or small they are or what have you. And so I'd install them because I feel like each painting had a sort of rhythm, emotion, feeling, and how people would interact with them is quite important. So how I installed it was quite unconventional. Sometimes I'd put things high up on the wall, low on the ground, sitting on the ground, on a sort of surface, like a plinth almost, or something like that. And I mixed like ceramics in with that.
Yeah.
And I feel like the way you organize the sort of paintings has a different feel than just eye level and just repetitive, you know?
There must be like a whole different section of art in terms of like organizing your paintings.
Yeah, I mean, they have curators. They bring shows together. They help organize how or where or low the paintings are or whatever artwork there is.
So you work with the curator.
For my
for
masters, I
installation.
was not allowed to work with a curator at all.
Really?
I had to completely do it myself
Oh shit! Okay, okay.
with the help of maybe a lecturer with some suggestions. But because it was for masters, that's something I have to do. And yeah, that's the way I chose to do it.
But for either, did you have curator?
I had help with Trish. Like
Trish.
we kind of brought all the paintings, put it out everywhere, and had to go through how the sort of space felt. So how much like energy, it's a bit, you know, but energy in this room next to the window is like quite a lot of traffic. So there's quite high energy. So you want to put like a high energy painting there and how it kind of flowed throughout the gallery space.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I had help with Trish.
Is there energy?
Is there energy?
Is there energy like, because we talk a lot about, oh, this person's got positive energy. I guess we can say about like paintings too, you know, positive energy painting, or, oh man, this vibe, the vibe of this painting's off or whatever, you know? Is there such thing as that?
Like energy itself?
Yeah, I
Or-
guess so. Like when we talk about that, do you believe in that? Kind of the energy of the room, or
yeah, like almost spiritual in a way.
yeah, almost spiritual, I guess.
It's still trying to figure that out, to be honest.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's like a human intuition in organizing and how it feels to someone, if
Yeah.
it feels like freeing. Because if you're in an enclosed space with tight four walls, you feel kind of claustrophobic, right? But for things to let it breathe and has a nice flow and things like that, almost like feng shui in a way. In a way, yeah, I'm not sure if there's actual energy. Possibly. I'm still trying to figure that out.
What about with the found materials? Because you say you value a lot of the history of those materials, right? And you try to kind of show that in your artwork. Do you think there's a history in the sense of like the visual history, you know, that something we can see that gets brought out in your art. Do you think there's also that like an emotional history installed in those at all? Or yeah, because I don't know, say like when someone was, if it's exactly the same color or same material, same color, whether that person was how that person was feeling at the time, you know, strong feeling of happiness, strong feeling of sadness, you know, maybe because I think some people believe in that objects store memories, in a way something that we can't measure, so it's very, you know,
Yeah, right.
whether you believe it or not, and there's no way to prove it or disprove it. Yeah. Do you what do you think about that much, or not really? Maybe mainly it's the visual aspect of things that you think
to me, the found surfaces they have a history, which means that depending on, like, you know, from the beginning, like say it's come from a tree, it's been milled down, it's been used in construction, it's been cut in a certain way, it's been thrown out. Sometimes there's rain on it, sometimes there's like varnish and oil and sort of all those things, and it's been beaten up and things like that. I think that's just the reflection of how we go through life, and it's not so much the object itself has the sort of... It's quite tricky. It's quite tricky. Like, I want to imbue it with this sort of life, my energy. We talk about energy again. But it's just a kind of like a quite an abstract sort of feeling and abstract feeling and intuition. But I don't believe that they're alive.
Yeah.
But I guess the way you paint can imbue some of that life in there, and then how people perceive it and how they think about things. And so our perception is almost triggering that into... It's like a character. You write a character in a story or a show or film. You want it to be fully fleshed out.
Yeah.
And they have so many different dimensions to their character. It's almost like that. But the character itself in a story is not particularly alive, right?
No.
But it feels alive because it's so fleshed out. It's kind of in that sort of way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have like a go-to gorilla bin? Or can you not leak that? Everyone's gonna go to it now. Millions of listeners this podcast.
Yeah, I need my materials. Sorry.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough.
Hush, hush, secret.
Yeah. Did you first start it? I guess you first started it because you're like, oh man, there's so much of it is going to waste.
Yeah.
And you're like, I could make use of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a happy. Was it a surprise for you when like a new color started coming out at the start?
Yes. So when I started, I just used Jib Plaster, but I'd layer it with so many different pigments and oils and things like that, that it was like a weird sort of collision, almost chemical reaction, how all the layers would kind of bleed through all the other layers and how it came up to the surface. So it was completely experimental and yeah, like it's quite a big surprise that all that kind of stuff happened. And
But happy surprise, right?
yeah, it's like Bob Ross, the painter. It's like happy accidents,
Yeah.
you know? Yeah. So we're always trying to find those happy accidents, like for artists to experiment. That's how we kind of learn, and yeah, that's how we learn.
What do you think about Bob Ross?
I think it's cool.
Yeah,
I think it's cool.
very different style from yours.
Yes, very different style. He paints to help others be more creative and things like that. Maybe people who aren't inclined to painting and creativity, but they enjoy painting, they like the process. I think he's just a cool guy, you know?
Yeah,
Like,
he seems cool.
yeah, I recently playing this game called Baldur's Gate.
Okay.
I don't know if you've heard about it, but
Oh,
it's kind
it's
of
a
like a role playing.
game.
It's a video
Yeah.
game. It's kind of like Dungeons and Dragons. And my character is called Rob Boss, and he's a thief. So like a huge fan of Bob Ross. So
Yeah. Oh, it seems like when you talk about nature and how that makes you feel, I feel like maybe Bob Ross feels similar
yeah,
because he paints mainly landscapes and things, right?
yeah, mostly landscapes and things, and yeah.
How do you feel about when it comes to your painting, because you use found wood and there are happy accidents like that?
Yeah.
Has anyone say like critiqued saying, oh, that's not intentional enough or anything like that? Have you had that before?
Not really.
Okay.
Not really.
Sorry to bring that up.
I have not really heard that a painting is not intentional enough, because I feel like it has plenty of intentions
That's true.
in controlling the sort of chaos, and allowing that chaos is a decision, and it's an intention. So that in itself is a decision for the painting to be alive, you know?
Yeah. I always wonder that. I think with the, say, photorealistic paintings. There are a lot of people who paints it or draws on the purpose of like just making it as realistic as possible. And I guess that's like a very extreme case where everything is very intentional. They want to do it in a certain way. And I wonder, looking at like an abstract art, another extreme example, something that's painted just green or just red and things. I always wonder like what would they say if someone say it doesn't take, what would you say? Like, do you think it takes more skills to paint or draw like photorealistic drawings and paintings?
I'd say that takes a tremendous amount of skill. But I think each artist has their own methodology in how they approach art practice. For me, it's quite process driven. It's like putting a layer on, allowing that to dry, seeing how it kind of reacts to other layers and things like that. And I think that also takes quite a certain amount of skill.
That's true, yeah.
To almost allow it, but have a balance of controlling that as also another skill. So it's just a different skill set and how they approach. So I wouldn't say one's more skilled than the other.
Yeah.
It's just different.
And I think listening to your process, it really starts from even just going around and looking for the found piece, right? Because I imagine it would take skills to recognize a piece that you can work on, that you would like to work on. I feel like that's all part of the process too.
Yeah, it's about a bit of chance, and I'm not sure if it's a skill. I just like walking around trying to find things, and I'm quite like curious and exploratory. I love exploring different places and things like that. So sometimes when I'm like walking around, I find something, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. It's kind of more of an intuition rather than a skill.
And do you reckon you got better over time
at finding things?
Yeah, finding things and like, I guess like recognizing like, oh, like this would be good for this thing. And like not for this. And
I guess the recognition part takes some skill, and you do get better at that in terms of choosing the actual materials that you use. But I kind of let chance and life just sort of happen, and if it happens, then it just happens.
It just happens.
It's just life. Like some things happen by chance and coincidence, and it just takes sort of perception and high awareness to find that.
Yeah,
because someone just might walk by and just not even notice.
Yeah, so exactly.
It just takes a bit of awareness and intention, I guess.
And so all these at the back of the painting that we can see here, all found wood?
So some of them are found. I've recently come into contact with a company that has helped me find recycled material that they find from workshops and things like that. So some of these are found, but some of these are just recycled materials that I've kind of bought off them and kind of worked with.
Yeah, that's cool. So what's going on here, Brendon? What are your maybe I want to hear your thought process of like why do some of them have like pink on it, why some of them have blue on it?
Yeah,
why some of them are brown, why some of them are part pink, part purple? Yeah. What's the story? What are the stories here?
So all these surfaces, what I found a method inspired by this exhibition in the Auckland Art Gallery that had a lot of icon paintings, which is like if you go to like a cathedral or something, sometimes they have paintings of like Jesus that are like thousands of years old, I've had that problem, how I said about the previous exhibition where things would fall apart. I found a method inspired by them into using like glue and linen on the surfaces to hold the plaster so it's much more robust. I've kind of rigged the sort of plaster process. It's not so traditional, but now I can paint with watercolors and whatever materials I want. so that was the beginning process. And now it's kind of like I'm trying to experiment with a new material that I haven't used before. Is water-soluble oil paint.
Okay, okay.
So typically you can't mix oil and water because they kind of just split.
Right.
But with this, even though I asked the shopkeeper, like, oh, can I mix like inks and acrylics with this oil-based thing? And they're like, definitely not. But me being in that chaos and that curiosity, how far can I push this? What kind of results can I get? I've started experimenting with that and many different materials inside the painting. So the kind of process is just finding a feeling with the different colors and things like that and how I apply. So these are like the very beginning stages, the first sort of layer that I would put on. I love color. I love to explore the color and how it feels to people. But it's just having fun, you know?
Yeah.
It's right now is the stage of just play and fun and experiment and with no time pressures or anything and just try to find something new. And so, yeah.
So for these pieces, this is the first layer.
Yeah, for many of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then how many layers do you usually apply?
Ooh, I have not really personally counted.
Okay.
Because
that many?
It's quite a lot when at the end of it. Yeah. Because I use a method of washing as well.
Okay.
So I layer washed colors, which means like diluted colors. So I love to layer the sort of pigments on top of each other to give like a certain optical effect or how someone sees and interprets those colors and how they feel to people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
More than 10 layers?
Probably
More than 10?
A lot more than that.
Yeah, a lot more than that?
Yeah, because I usually just wash over and over and over and over until you get these like complex colors that are not typically seen outside in the world. Yeah.
And then do you add different geometries usually as well?
Yeah, sometimes they're inspired by just places that I've visited or something comes up in my mind or an idea or something like that. So it's a bit of a process going from experimenting and balancing composition. And I kind of have to experience life to interpret those sort of compositions in a way.
For this brown one, for example, would it have the final product of that? Would it have like a different geometries added on top of it?
Sometimes, yeah.
Okay.
Sometimes,
but not necessarily, right?
Yeah, it just depends on the painting itself because it's also a balancing act between me and the material. So if I have an idea and a composition that I want to create, sometimes it doesn't work on the actual painting. Like it's all about balance, really. Like it's really hard to describe it. So sometimes if you use too much brain in a painting, like you use your intellect and I can make this trick happen and it'll be so cool and it'll be so fascinating. Sometimes that's too much for the painting and it doesn't end in a good result.
Sure. Have you thrown out paintings because of that?
I've never really thrown out paintings, to be honest. I keep working over them until they do work.
Right.
Yeah. Carrying that sort of life with that. But sometimes you need to have intuition and heart, and balancing the intellect with that is the best result you can get. Yeah.
That could be tough.
Yeah. So I can't really, because I've got a book that has like many different compositions and ideas, and you can't immediately go, okay, that one's perfect for that and that and that. Sometimes it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in theory, there's a theory behind like what's understood to be working and not, but sometimes that's not always the case.
Yeah. So you're asking like what makes a good painting, or
there would be a good question, but I think I think I was more asking like, does the book say like in theory this color should go well with these other colors? But if we always went by the theory, like that, but it's not like a guaranteed like recipe for that works every like 100% of the time, right?
Yeah, there's so many factors that working with just color alone is quite tricky. There are sort of rules and basics that you can follow, which are very helpful. But I feel like the artist's job is to break that. How do you make a good painting while like having these two colors that are not supposed to work? How do you make that good? How do you make that work? Is more... Yeah, I think artists' role is to break the rules, really. We're all like rebels at heart, you know? Yeah.
What's an example of one of your paintings that had like your personal experience embedded in it?
So going back to the Karekare residency, there's this room, you'd sleep in the bed, and every time you'd wake up, you'd see this door in this interior space, and it leads to like a bathroom. And that painting for me reminds me of Karekare and the emotions that I had in the journey that I went through. And that's the most personal sort of painting to me. So like the painting was inspired by that sort of form and architecture and things like that, but abstracted and different colors and things like that. That to me was one of the most personal. And that was the one that didn't sell in my previous exhibition in Ether, which is also, again, maybe serendipity and coincidence. And my partner, Haley, loved that painting, and she was wishing that no one bought it. And no one did. And so I gave it to her for a Christmas present.
Oh,
yeah, which
so
makes
nice.
it more personal as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That goes to show like maybe it was, you know, talking about energy and things.
Yeah.
Maybe it's got too much of your personal energy, which is not saying that that makes it a better painting or worse painting, but when something is very personal to people, right? Personal to other people, like whether it's a super cool item or not, but I don't want to have that for my sake as well as for their sake.
Maybe.
So maybe that really went through.
Maybe people felt it. Yeah.
Yeah, could be, right?
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Never thought of that.
But no, that's really cool. But I think that house residency, is it Karekare?
Yeah, Karekare.
Yeah. I think the house residency came at the perfect time, man.
Yeah.
For you.
Yeah, it was the most perfect situation that I could ever dream of.
Yeah.
It's one of the most pivotal points in my art career, I feel. It just came at the right time, and it was the perfect space for it. Inspired by the nature and energy, and because I feel like the space is the place itself is quite almost sacred. I think it was like quite a sacred place to the Māori people as well. Yeah.
And there were other artists there working as well, right?
I had a friend from uni that happened to apply for the residency as well.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
So we just went together like old mates and just started painting.
That would have been so fun.
Yeah, because it's been a little while since, because like I had a cohort in uni in the master's studio. We were so like close and tight, but we had a little bit of a gap. Like we couldn't. It's hard to find studio spaces that are large enough to occupy us all together. So we all went off in our sort of separate journeys, different places, and for us to come back together was like a almost welcome home kind of feeling. Yeah.
For 2 months too.
Yeah.
That would have been fun. And you were able to get like that leave from work and things like that.
Yeah. I had to like warn them in advance.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, I'm going to this residency.
How much advance did you
I gave them a whole year.
Oh, okay, yeah.
They're like, yeah, no worries about it. Yeah. And then when I left, chaos.
Yeah. And you're like, oh, I like
but they
chaos.
pulled through, yeah.
That's cool. Did you speaking about just because you put a lot of personal emotion into your paintings, when someone, how do you think about like you selling that? Is it hard to part from your paintings, or?
Sometimes they are quite hard to part with.
Yeah.
Because you connect with them so well. But it's almost, if someone appreciates that in that same way, it's almost worth giving. And it makes it personal for them, you know, like I just want to put these artworks out in the world, and hopefully they can help someone's day become a little bit better, or help them reflect on their own emotions and things like that. And if it can bring them some sort of value, I feel like that's worth it. But there is one that I've kept throughout the years. I've painted one painting, and I feel like that's the closest I've ever been to the goal that I've wanted to achieve.
Really?
And for the first time, I was literally ecstatic.
Yeah.
Just after I finished it, I was like at uni, late at night, again, 4 a.m. And when I finished it, I stood back and looked at it. And I was like, whoa, what did I just create?
Really?
Like, because you kind of get into that flow, you know,
Yeah.
like, and then you're just your awareness completely envelops the painting, and you get lost in it, and then you just keep painting. And then once you come out of that sort of flow and actually experience what you just made, that time was like the most ecstatic I've ever been after I've painted something.
Yeah.
And so I've kept that.
You've kept that. So you
Just that
knew
one.
you were not gonna put that up for sale.
No, never. I'm going to keep that throughout my life.
What time did you finish? Was it during uni?
Yeah, I think it was my second year of uni.
Second year uni. And what was the what time of the day was it when you finished that?
About 4 a.m.
4 a.m. Wait, what is this? Keep coming back to 4 a.m.
I don't know.
Yeah, maybe that's what time were you born?
I have no idea. Maybe 4 a.m. Who knows? Could be. Maybe that's the time.
Maybe that's the time. So 4 a.m. you're at your university studio.
Yep.
You finished it. Were there other people around?
No.
I guess not, right?
No one.
4 a.m.
No.
Yeah. And what about it was that when do you decide it's finished?
That is a tough question. I've been trying to figure that out for the longest time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because sometimes you get so into the painting that you're almost too close to it. And it takes some time to unravel what you've actually created. So sometimes it's actually really good to put it away and come back to it in a certain period of time and then look at it again. But sometimes if it hangs on your wall maybe a little too long, a few months or whatever, and you can't think of anything to do or put on or trying to... Sometimes it's just bad, but sometimes if you leave it for so long and you can't do anything to it, maybe it's done. Yeah. But everything's always in a work in process, you know? Work in progress.
You think so?
I think so.
So say you're finished, like the paintings that you put on the exhibitions and things. Do you consider them, even those, as unfinished products or work in process products?
I think those paintings are in a way complete. Because as an artist, you want to always progress and learn and apply new techniques and things like that. I think sometimes you have to be aware enough to say that this is perfect for the time in the moment.
Right.
And this is just a reflection of the journey you are in now. Yeah.
For the painting that you painted, for your favorite painting that you've kept.
Yeah.
But for that one, you knew when it was finished.
Yeah. Immediately.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Was it your only painting that you had that experience when you're like, okay, this is now finished?
Not the only,
Not
but
the
I feel
only.
like the strongest feeling.
Right.
Yeah.
What was it about that? Do you know? Like, can you because ideally, just coming from the data scientist brain over here, ideally you recognize what it was about that made that painting very special for you, and it's being able to recreate that every time, right? Because imagine like every painting or every piece of artwork that you worked on gave you that feeling, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, but yeah, have you thought about that? Like, it's like, why do I like this so much more than other ones?
That's a tricky question. It's not something I can really analyze, like from pure data. I feel like it's the closest I've come to the goal that I've wanted to achieve, and the feeling that I get from it is the closest. So in that way, I feel like it's complete.
Yeah.
But every painting is a progression towards that same goal.
Yeah.
Of capturing that sort of like tranquility, peacefulness, and has a right amount of, self-reflection and things like that.
Do you think? True. I wonder. Have you tried recreating that? I guess would every painting that you do is your attempt at reaching that goal or higher.
Yeah. So I feel like the goal that I'm trying to achieve has many different roads towards that goal.
Yeah.
That was just one of them
I see.
that was close.
That's the closest it's been so far.
Personally.
But
also I can't predict I can't control other people's perception of it. So sometimes you have to let these things go out in the world, and how people interpret these paintings are up to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Has other people's perception on your painting ever affected your perception of it?
In what way?
Maybe like you painted something,
yeah,
and you're like, oh, I'm trying to capture like a certain feeling, and other people see it and they really like it, and they say, oh, I like it because of their reasons, but it's opposite of what you intended. And you're like, oh shit, like now that you say it, maybe I can see where you're coming from, and maybe your perception of the painting changes.
Yeah. I can understand people's perception from their point of view. It doesn't really affect the way I paint, but I can understand the interpretation. So it's kind of a bit separate in a way.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's more about seeing people's from their point of view rather than it influencing my point of view. People can have critiques and things like that that I will take on. But it doesn't really change too much because I have this strong, intense goal that I'm trying to achieve through the painting, that I'm quite stubborn almost, that I can't veer away from. But someone might give me an idea, like, oh, that's really interesting. And then maybe in that way, I can approach it that way. But for the most part, it doesn't influence the way I paint too heavily.
True. Now, I think that's one of the things that I really I get inspired by you, is that I feel like, because I was on your website just the other day.
Yeah.
Brendon Leung.
Brendon Leung.
Leung.com. Yeah, BrendonLeung.com. Be there. It's kind of in the description, so you should check it out. I was looking at your painting, and I think the earliest, for your paintings at least, earliest that it goes is 2018, right? Does that sound about right?
That's because I've deleted some pages.
It goes beyond that.
Yeah, it definitely goes beyond that.
Yeah. And but even just going from 2018 and now we're in 2023, and you've kept up with the style, and I think for me that's like an evidence that this is your style. Would you say that this is kind of would you say you found your style?
In a way, yes. I think I have found a certain style that I'm adjusted and acclimatized to. And I think each painting, like each artist has their own sort of upbringing and their philosophy and how they live life and how they actually use the materials, like a brush affects the painting. So I often do like a lot of long, big strokes with paint and things like that, how they apply. Other artists might do little strokes and lots of brush work and things like that. So I feel like my paintings is a reflection of my philosophy in life and how I choose to live.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So even with the brushing technique and things?
Yeah, even little habits like, just brush techniques and stuff like that. Little habits and ways of thinking influences the painting.
So how does, say, for example, like the brushing technique, how does that reflect your lifestyle? It's quite,
it's hard to pinpoint exactly.
Yeah.
But I've always been quite a broad brushstroke kind of person, if that makes sense. Because often I'd see a lot of artists, like even when they're sketching, they do little sketch like shadings like that.
Okay.
I've always been quite a broad stroke kind of person.
True.
Maybe the way that I want to kind of give the whole thing a sort of, how do I say? It's more about the totality maybe of it.
Yeah.
And brushing through. Maybe, yeah, I'm not quite sure actually. It's quite hard to, but it's definitely a reflection of your little habits and how you naturally are.
I can see that. I can see that it, there must be linkage somehow.
Yeah, I
you
think
know,
so. Somehow.
Somehow. Like, have you? I feel like there might be a meme, like an artist meme.
Yeah.
Something to do with like, oh, if you do this, you're probably a person who does like little.
Oh, probably.
Yeah, you know.
It's like kind of like one of those TikToks, like if you drink tequila, you're this type of person.
Yeah, exactly. If
Maybe.
you prefer this, then you're this type of person.
Maybe.
But yeah, speaking of oh, by the way, if you are thirsty, then we've got a beautiful glass of vitamin water over here.
Sponsored?
Oh, in the future.
Should we do a
sponsor.
product shot?
Glass of vitamin water. There's would you like a mixed berry flavor or lemonade flavor?
I'll try the lemonade.
Oh yeah, lemonade's a good one.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think, speaking of your website, what happened to, because you haven't done ceramics for a while.
Yeah. It's been a while. I think that's how we kind of met, right?
Yes, sir. And I have to say, I've got one of your ceramics.
Yeah.
Ooh, I was gonna bring it today and I forgot.
Oh no.
I forgot my headphones. I forgot I don't want to do it next to it. I forgot my headphones.
Yeah.
I forgot my ceramic that I wanted to bring. I wanted to put it right there in the middle of the table.
That would have been funny.
I have to say, I love it. Oh, cheers, sir. Cheers. Thank you. I have to say, it's I would say it's a timeless piece, Brendon.
Oh, thank you.
It's a timeless piece. I feel like in, I don't know, 10 years, 20 years down the road, wherever I'm living, it's one of the things I feel like I'll have and have it displayed somewhere in my household. So honestly, like, I love it. So yeah. And so yeah, you haven't done ceramics for a while.
Yeah, it's quite tricky to find facilities.
True.
Because the university lent me the wheel, and we have kilns down there, and we have the whole like glazing technology all there. But it's quite expensive. And during COVID, a lot of people were into ceramics. So if you look on Trade Me, and then one would be for sale, and the next hour it would be gone.
It would be gone?
I was like, damn. And sometimes it's a bit out of my price range and things like that. So it's hard to find the facilities, but it is a great passion of mine. I was so addicted to ceramics for the longest time.
You made a lot.
I was so addicted that my painting lecturer caught me in the ceramics studio and said, Brendon, where's the paintings? You are banned from here.
Really?
Go back to your studio. So I couldn't go for ceramics for a little while. And I was quite in deep trouble because it was like final term examination and all that kind of stuff. And I still hadn't done any paintings.
You haven't done any?
Yeah, it was a addiction.
Yeah.
Really.
So you loved it.
I loved it.
You loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah. How did you get into ceramics, and what about it that made you get hooked into it?
How I kind of just did an elective, like an extra paper. Just wanted to give it a try. I was so worried. Like some people were like, you either have it or you don't. I was like, oh no, I don't know if I should choose this. Maybe I don't have it. I was so worried. But once I actually got on the wheel and tried certain things, that flow state again happened, and you were just completely encompassed by this rotation and the clay and how it formed and how you kind of almost draw with the clay and shapes and things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder how, like, what the science behind flow state is.
Yeah.
There must be, but like, if there's a pill that you can take and you get into the flow state,
I'll take that every day.
yeah, like, you would, right?
Yeah,
and a lot of people would, but there isn't, as far as I know.
Yeah.
Maybe there is. I don't know.
I heard meditation might help.
Okay.
That's what I've heard.
Do you meditate?
I haven't for the longest time, but I used to quite often.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you paint, do you often get into the flow state?
Yeah. I think painting in a way is a meditation in a way.
Yeah.
And you do often get into that flow state. Yeah.
I think I really like your philosophy when it comes to your artwork. I remember still, because man, like, I think so I got one of your ceramics, and the way I got it is through the competition that you put out.
Yeah.
You're like, comment on this. It's like a Facebook competition.
Yeah.
And I want to say 2018. Yeah, I want to say 2018, and you're like, yo, comment and like this, and then being to win one of your ceramics, as well as getting to like do an experience.
Yeah, a little class.
Yeah, a little class, right? So, and I never win these things, Brendon.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I never win this thing. It's one of the very few ones that I won. Well, before I had to ask, was there any because I was friends with Juan, who's your who you're
childhood
obviously
friend,
close to, right?
Your previous colleague in
My previous
PhD
colleague. Yeah. Shout out to Juan Go.
Yo.
But was there any fixing? Because I was Juan's friend.
To be honest, there wasn't many people who applied. But I put it through a little generator
Okay,
thing.
so it was random still.
Yeah,
it was random still. Okay, that's because when I got picked, I'm like, yeah, let's go. In the back of my mind, I'm like, is it because I'm close to Juan?
Juan just gave me a $20 tip.
exactly.
Like, get this guy in.
Exactly.
Yeah, no.
But when I went there, you're a good teacher as well.
Oh,
Brendon.
thank you.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you about that. Oh, might as well get into it now. I was gonna ask, because you're a good teacher, have you thought about teaching art?
Oh, I didn't know I was a good teacher, actually. But thank you.
You haven't heard that before?
Not really.
Really?
No.
Because you told me how to like do the ceramics, right? And yeah, I thought you're patient. You're articulate. You're good at demonstrating. I thought you were a good teacher. So I was wondering, like, have you thought about that? Because you enjoy doing art. Maybe you enjoy teaching art and inspiring others.
Yeah, I have thought about that. I did hear that one of my lecturers did say, without any sort of, I didn't teach or anything, but maybe my personality or something triggered her to say, like, I think you might be a good teacher.
Oh, there you go.
Maybe. But I didn't have any sort of evidence of that. I was like, oh, really? Oh,
Yeah.
that's interesting.
There's one now.
yeah. Possibly. Like I do like to sort of inspire people to follow their passion and the way they want to create things and things like
Yeah.
that. But I have a little insecurity that I don't have the skill set or the knowledge. This weird imposter syndrome kind of thing going on. So I never really went into it deeper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
but it was a lot of fun.
There was
Yeah.
Yeah, you mean teaching me or
teaching you. Yeah,
oh,
that
heck
was
yeah,
fun.
yeah.
You're such a good student.
Oh, thank you. No, I'm glad to hear that you had fun because I had fun, and I got the ceramic that I did from that. It's holding my rings in the pot. Yeah, it's really cool. It's I can see why people would get into ceramics and what pottery, right?
Yeah, pottery ceramics. Yeah.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I really liked being there was choosing one of your pieces. And when you said, like, because I was asking, like, because there were so many cool ones that I could choose from. And I was like, okay, man, I don't know how to choose. And I'm as indecisive as they come anyway. And you're like, oh, like, what I really liked was you're like, oh, like, have a feel. And, you know, see how it makes you feel. And look at them from different angles. Like, touch them and feel them and see how that makes you feel. And that, like, I still remember that vividly because that's like a whole new because until then I had an appreciation for art, but I didn't know how to appreciate it like, I guess, in like a more programmatic manner, you know. Like I can see an art and I'm like, oh, I like this painting. Oh, not this one, not as much, and things like that. But I'm like wasn't certain there I wasn't sure if there were different ways of doing it. And when you said that, and when I was doing that, I was like, you know what, like, seeing some of these things makes me a certain way, but when I touch them and feel them, you know, rotate them around, it does make me feel different ways to the pieces that you made. And I feel like that really aided me into choosing the one that I have and still liking it as much as I did the first time around. Yeah, I still, like, sometimes I grab it and see it, you know, feel the texture of it and things, and like rotate it around. Yeah. So I really like that philosophy that you kind of engraved in my brain.
Oh, thank you. I really, thank you for enjoying the piece that I made. Yeah, it's quite a tactile thing, ceramics.
For sure.
Even when you're making something. But yeah, how it feels in your hand, how it's shaped, and how it just aesthetically looks and things like that, all comes into consideration of if you like it or not. Yeah. Like, it's kind of like watching a movie. Like, sometimes you don't like the movie, but sometimes you do. Yeah. You know, it's all aesthetic, sort of sensory feeling and how it makes you feel internally. Yeah.
Yeah. And I realized, like, there are, even within that piece, there are different parts that really stand out to me. And I think for that one, I don't know if you remember what it looks like, Brendon. It's like a cream one. Yeah. And it's got one part of it has, you know how it must be from like a fire spitting on it or something. It's got like the burnt side of things. Yeah. And man, like, that adds so much character to that piece. And even they're looking at them, like, I still think about that a lot. Like, does make me feel a certain way. So cool.
So that texture is actually ash that I've thrown on.
You threw it there?
Yeah, I threw it on there. Yeah. I just wanted to experiment with different types of ash, because sometimes they can come out and melt or come out in a different texture or color even. I just wanted to experiment with that, and I just kind of, while I was glazing, I threw it on, and then let it dry, and then put it in the kiln, and was hoping it would do something. Yeah. But it feels great. It's like kind of a little bit rough, but on the other side, it's kind of smooth. I remember when you picked up the piece and then you started handling it, and then you're like, oh, what if I did this? And you blew into it. Oh, yeah. And you made like a whistle, like bottle whistle sound. So I remember that quite vividly.
Oh, I forgot about that because I used to play the flute.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so with, like, you know, because flute, all it is just a little hole and you blow into it and you change your fingers to make different notes. Yeah. And so, but it's one of the first steps of the flute is being able to make the sound. Oh. So everyone actually just starts with just that mouthpiece because it's a funny thing. Like, it's a hole and you blow into it, you have to make noise. So you have to have a certain technique. So when I've learned that, from then on, you know, kids, right? They just learn one thing and just apply to everything. If I find any hole, like even this bottle and stuff, like,
Oh my gosh.
yeah, I just blow into it. And I was like, oh, this is like a perfect mouthpiece to
Yeah,
blow
yeah,
into
yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's such a... And you told me there was... You really liked that as well, right? You really
I was
liked
quite
it.
surprised as well when you did it. I was like, whoa, it's making it like such an interesting sound. I'd never
True.
thought about that.
I saw that ceramic that I picked is featured in one of your Instagram posts.
Ah.
Like it part of the nature when you took ceramics into nature.
It's Return to Nature.
Return to
I just
Nature.
kind of did that as a fun sort of photography experiment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So are you planning to come back to ceramics?
I want to. I really do. I really miss it. It's a whole different way of approaching making. It's addicting.
Yeah. Have you got because you must haven't done it for a while now, right?
Yeah, a few years, I think.
A few years.
Yeah.
Do you have a plan? Like, I don't know. Have you been looking into like different studios or anything or?
Yep. I did do a little class.
Is it with the like this? I saw like you went to a studio with Jen something.
Oh, Gino?
Gino? Yeah, I saw that.
It's a new friend that I made. My partner surprised me.
Okay.
It was like, because I was been to learn Korean so we can communicate when we go to Korea to meet our parents, blah, blah, blah. And she was like, Brendon, I've got a surprise for you. It's like, what is it? It's like, we're going to a Korean class.
Yeah.
I was like, oh no. So we turned up. She didn't say anything. We drove there and turned up and then met this guy called Gino.
Yeah.
And then he was like, oh, hello, how's it going? And all that kind of stuff. And
In English?
Yeah, in English. And then I was like, oh, I'm ready for my Korean lesson. And then he was like, what are you talking about? And then so we just walked in and went through his space. And I was like, whoa, this guy's a ceramics guy.
Yeah.
And then he's like one of the most amazing ceramicists I've seen.
Really?
Yeah, and his house is beautiful with a whole bunch of ceramics and stuff. And he's learned in China and Korea and all that kind of stuff.
Cool.
And it didn't click for me. And then, so he goes, okay, ready? You ready for your ceramics lesson? And I was like, what? And then I was so happy. I was like, oh, let's go.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah.
So did your partner knew him or?
Yeah,
They knew each
I think she met him through a book club or something.
Right.
Korean book club.
Korean book club.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so cool. So you did a ceramic lesson with
Yeah.
with Gino.
With a proper expert artist.
Shout
Yeah.
out Gino.
Yeah. Gino Ceramics.
Gino Ceramics.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw his Instagram page.
Yeah.
Yeah, really cool.
Beautiful,
So
eh?
he does lessons?
He does lessons. He teaches to like general people, but he also does private ceramic tutoring,
Yeah.
which I found really helpful. Like we were going to do like beginner stuff, but he saw the way I was actually making.
Yeah.
He was like, oh, okay, you must be like intermediate. I was like, no, not intermediate, beginner.
Yeah.
Beginner. And then, so he's like, what is the piece that you've always wanted to make?
Yeah.
And I was like, my ceramics goal is a Korean moon jar.
What's a Korean? I saw that. I saw you make Korean moon jar. What's that?
It's like a big
I should know.
vessel that's kind of like glazed in white. But it's supposed to represent like the moon and it's quite round, but it also represents something that I've kind of imbued into my own artwork. The philosophy behind it is the sort of imperfection of it.
Yeah.
It's not meant to be a perfect sphere.
Right.
It's meant to be a bit wobbly and a bit, it's like an appreciation for the handmade and the imperfections of the vessel and in life and things like that. So that philosophy went into my painting. So that was, when I did ceramics, that was like my ultimate goal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Korean moon jar.
Korean moon jar. I made a little one.
Yeah,
It's supposed to be a lot bigger, like 10 times bigger, but I was very happy.
So he must have been pretty happy when you said, I want to make Korean moon jar.
He was like, oh, okay. It wasn't like, I think maybe it was, because it's one of the hardest sort of vessels and it's quite hard.
Because it's big?
It's because you have to make, it's big, but you also have to make like the feet for it. You have to make the shape, but you have to make it in two parts.
Right.
And so you have to put say two bowls together upside down into a sphere, and then beat it together, and then also make a top for, you know, things to go in.
Yeah.
And it's quite a tricky technique.
Damn. Do you guys make one?
Gino makes thousands
Of Korean moon jars?
He's so good.
The big ones?
The big ones.
I need to check them out.
Yeah, he's really good. So when I got to learn that, I was so happy.
So you learned how to make Korean moon jars?
Yeah, it was been my goal ever since I started.
Yeah.
And to actually make one, I was like, what? So how did I do this in one day? It's supposed to take like weeks.
Yeah, what the heck? Like, so it's like a proper size, or did you say a bit smaller?
Yeah, my one's a mini one.
Yeah. But still two parts.
Still two parts, and somehow put it together and glazed it and all that.
And you have it.
I have it.
You have it.
That's in my room. Yeah.
That's so cool. That's so cool. I guess like, I mean, I'm surprised that like, you know, I can see like a plate, I don't know, like something like a cup, you know, because it's an experience, right? So like he'll teach you, and I guess you being an intermediate, like he thought it was doable, you know, maybe for a beginner.
I think maybe he was hesitant,
likely.
Oh, okay, Moonja, are you good enough? But yeah.
But do you consider yourself beginner back then? Like when you met Gino?
Yeah, I'm still a beginner. I still think so.
You think so?
I think so.
But you made like how many, like, because you did exhibitions with ceramics and things.
Yeah, I'd still, because it's not like, those were more experimental, not traditional sort of ceramic making. I would often leave them kind of just bisque fired, which is the first firing, and not glazed, and painted them, and it was quite untraditional in terms of exhibition. But I'd still consider myself a beginner, yeah.
Is it, but you told me, you know, who's like a proper beginner.
We're both beginners.
We're both beginners,
yeah.
I wonder if that's like an imposter syndrome talking. You know what I mean? Like,
I have a lot of that, yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, I think this is the rub. I think it's good and bad, you know. You could easily say, yeah, I've made, you know, or I've done exhibition, like, so I'm an expert. But then that person who would say that might not be as willing to learn from others, might not be as willing as open to learning, I guess. But on the other side of that is, you know, it is the imposter syndrome, right? Like,
yeah, I think a lot of artists have imposter syndrome. It's a really confusing thing, because you achieve certain goals that when you first started, you're like, oh my God, I'll be an artist when I achieve this and exhibit and be part of a gallery or whatever. And when you achieve that, you still have that imposter syndrome and like, what's next? You know, I'm still a beginner. But maybe that's also to do with mindset of also wanting to learn. Yeah. I'm not quite sure. I've always been in that mindset to like be humble and always constantly try to learn. Yeah. Do you ever get imposter syndrome?
Yeah, massive.
Really?
Yeah. Like, I definitely think when I like give talks or someone asks me about something, I do notice that the first thing that comes to my mind is like, oh shit, like, I should know more than I know.
Yeah, that's the thing. Eh?
Yeah, and it feels bad because quite often, yeah, I think it's something, I think it's like a mixture of things. I think first thing is imposter syndrome. Another thing is like my communication skills and the way I present ideas. So I definitely don't think it's just imposter syndrome, but quite often I'm like, I don't value things that I know as much as I feel like I should. Yeah, and I feel bad. Like I feel, I don't know. I don't know if it's a like weird thing to say, but sometimes I feel bad for myself that I think that about myself. Oh, you know what I mean? Like, because if I was another person and I had the same knowledge, and if I thought that this thought about that person, you know, I would think that makes me kind of dick. Oh, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so me thinking about this about myself, I don't think that's any different. I think that still kind of makes me a dick. Because what I think is, if I think this about myself, I don't know. I feel like maybe I would think this about some other people too. You know, like whether it's conscious or subconscious. So yeah, I'm trying. It's a work in progress. Working, yeah. I'm working on it.
Yeah, it's quite a tough thing to deal with. It's the always I should be doing this, I should be doing that, I should present myself in a certain way, I should have this sort of knowledge to be an expert or to be adequate in my field or something. But for some reason, it's always beating us down.
It's beating us down. But on the other hand, like you said, this does fuel me into learning more, always looking to improve more. Because I feel this, because I feel like, I guess, I wonder if we would stop learning if we felt, okay, I'm good enough. Do you think that? I wonder if we can feel both. Like maybe we can feel, okay, I'm good enough, plus wanting to learn more.
Yeah.
Do you think that's possible?
Maybe. I mean, maybe we get too emotionally invested in these thoughts, maybe. And if we take time to analyze the evidence that you've got certain skills and maybe reached a benchmark of where you should be, but also having that mindset of wanting to learn always, maybe there's a possibility.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's a very thin line.
It's so interesting that you're a data analyst, but you still feel, because you can see all the evidence, right?
Yeah.
And you still feel that way.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point. But I think even a lot with a lot of PhD students, I feel like it's quite common to feel imposter syndrome. Yeah. So I guess I'm a victim of that. But yeah, it's a weird thing. I think with definitely artists I've heard, because I've been on YouTube space a lot, you know. I love YouTube, and I heard a lot of artists or YouTubers, if you want to call them, but at the end they are storytellers and video editors, right? And they say they always feel imposter syndromes. They're like, okay, when I get 1 million subscribers, I wouldn't feel this way, but 5 million, 10 million subscribers, they still feel the same. So like you said, yeah, like you said, like, you know, there is not gonna be a point where if I do this, I wouldn't feel the imposter syndrome anymore.
Yeah, I think it's like also with artists feeling imposter syndrome, there's no real benchmark. There's no set rule. It's quite loose. Like maybe if you're in a certain field that has quite a lot of structure, and if you've met these criterias that are laid out to you, then maybe you're good at the job.
Yeah.
But for artists, it's so varied, so multifaceted, that it's hard to create these sort of benchmarks.
For sure.
And so we're kind of lost in a way in that, in feeling like you're adequate enough in the field. And so we're always trying to navigate that. And maybe that's why we feel a bit of imposter syndrome.
I can see that. Yeah, I can definitely see that. What's because you are into photography as well. Are you interested in like videography at all?
I feel like, I've always been interested in like watching movies and videos, and but I'd say it's just a side hobby, and almost photography is a almost necessity, like a skill that you need to pick up as an artist.
Right.
Because you can't always pay for someone to take photos of your artwork.
Yeah.
So you have to pick that up
true.
so you can sort of promote your artwork and things like that.
That's true. And you do it well. I like your photos.
Thank you.
Because I was thinking, because I saw this guy, there's this guy called Marco on YouTube. He's a YouTuber, and I don't know exactly what his background is, but he seems like a really cool artist. So his main thing that he does on YouTube is customizing shoes.
Whoa.
So like different materials, like he rips shoes apart and puts like different materials in place of those things.
Wow.
And one of the first videos I saw was he made shoes out of out of a fish he caught.
What?
So, yeah, he was like
Out of fish?
so cool. I think you'll love him because he experiments with different like materials and things.
Yeah.
And is, you know, I guess very chaotic. Yeah, so he caught a fish and like he skinned the fish. So he got the skin of the fish and then he dried it. Somehow he made that really durable. And
Yeah.
it's something that he can work with. And if you would imagine like a Nike Air Force, you know how it's got Nike text and there are different stitchings of things that put together to make the shoes, right? So he takes that apart and replaces it with you know, using that skin,
Yeah.
fish skin that he created, and different textures of things, you know, in theme of that material and things, and he paints on the shoes as well. And I think, you know, looking at that, like, kind of made me think, you know, maybe there are different opportunities for artists to get into, right? Yeah. Was just wondering if you thought about, you know, getting into that space, because you were saying like you've streamed before as well, you know, maybe you can film your process and then, you know, it could be on YouTube, you know, because I'll be interested in, as a person like who's not in the art space, you know, it's interesting seeing like all the progress and even what your day to day is like, and you know, putting on an exhibition, what's that like and things.
Oh,
yeah.
Like making my own YouTube channel. And...
Yes, sir. Yes,
Okay.
sir.
I have thought about it because I did used to stream on Twitch with my ceramics and things like that.
Yeah.
And I'd just often, when I'm in a project making ceramics, I'd often stream with people when they play music and just have a good time together and experimenting if we can make certain things that they like say in the chat, and just interacting with people was really fun.
Yeah.
I've always been interested in that sort of influencer kind of streaming YouTube space, but I've never really like fully went into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but maybe.
Yeah.
I've heard that people really want to know the process behind my artwork. So
yes.
maybe shooting some videos of the process and how I'm making things, how I'm sanding or gluing or painting would be interesting. Maybe.
Yeah. Oh, that would be really interesting, I reckon.
Yeah. Do you have a YouTube channel?
I do have a YouTube channel. I have a YouTube channel for this podcast. Yes,
Hey.
sir. Yeah, but it's just hey, if you didn't know,
Yeah.
but it's just kind of what you get. It's just like my podcast, but with video element as well. So there's that. So, you know, for those folks who would prefer to listen to on YouTube, there you go. Because some people prefer to listen to podcasts on YouTube. I found.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
That's interesting.
Yeah, I guess a lot of people use Spotify.
Yeah.
Is like the main thing, but some of my friends say, oh, they listen to podcasts on YouTube. Yeah, so that's why I put it up there. I also have another channel which I started last year. That's about like data.
Wow.
Yeah, I started making like things about data, but that's when I thought like that wasn't for me. Like I started getting like, I think right now it's got maybe 1.1k subscribers or something.
Whoa.
So it's got
someone's famous.
I don't want to brag. I don't want to brag, but yeah, kind of a big deal. Yeah, there's a so I was studying this certificate, and then I was like, oh man, this is so boring. Like I was so bored. So I needed like a motivation to study. So what I did was I went through practice questions of the certificate, and I just filmed myself doing it to make myself accountable to do it. And then I was like, oh, you know what, this is quite fun. So I put it on YouTube. And because it's a certificate, very niche thing, right? There aren't that many other competitions that, you know, that people can watch. And yeah, people started watching mine, and then yeah, somehow it got to like where it is now. But I think even with that, like even with that many views I got, I think it wasn't really for me. I wasn't having fun making it. So eventually I got the certificate, so it worked.
Nice.
The method worked. But that's when I realized, okay, like this is like not like a long-term thing. Because I thought about making like those videos, and I can branch out to other certificates, which will get me more views, more subscribers, and which will be good long-term in terms of like, because I'll get money off it as well. But I thought, okay, like for me, I want to do I want to do things I enjoy doing. Yeah, so this I kind of tried different things, and yeah, I think I eventually settled on like doing interviews with people, and I'm like, oh, I want to keep doing, like, this is what I want to do. And yeah, eventually started the podcast, and which I've kept up for a couple of months now.
What was the sort of first thought? Like, how did you even want to start? What inspired you to start the podcast?
Oh, the podcast.
Was there something in specifically, or a moment, or?
Yeah, I would say like maybe like collection of moments. It's usually like just having long conversations with people that made me thought, oh, I really wanna basically me thinking, man, I feel like there's so much content here that's going to waste.
It's always about the content.
It's about the content, baby. So maybe in the same way that you've thought that, oh man, all this, used like found wood, it's going to waste, maybe it's the same way. But like I was like, I there was this one time that I was talking to my brother for like a couple of hours on the phone, and we're talking about like entrepreneurship, because my brother's super entrepreneurial.
Wow.
So we're talking about entrepreneurship and mindset and like different life habits and things. And I'm like, oh man, I feel like if I heard someone else having this conversation, I'll find it really interesting.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh man, I really want to share this with the world somehow. There was a moment that I thought that, and I was one of my friends, Denim, and I used to flirt with him.
Yeah.
And we would just like stand next to a window just chatting shit like for hours. And I'm like, oh man, this is like such a fun conversation. I feel like other people would hear it and they might have fun too. So those are kind of moments that I thought like, oh man, I want to kind of have these conversations, but with like wider range of people, and other people could listen to it and they can also enjoy that conversation and things. So that's always been on my mind. And having starting that YouTube channel, although I wasn't doing exactly that, gave me the idea that, okay, I can make this public. There are different platforms that I can do it. So yeah, so those kind of collection of things came together, and eventually I'm like, you know what, let me start it and see how it goes.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yes,
dude.
sir.
Yeah.
It was fun. Yeah, order these microphones.
Yeah.
Samsung Q2U for those I don't know who be wondering that, but yeah. So
So it's about providing value for other listeners and information and sharing. And
I think it's more of what I enjoyed.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I just
entertainment, or
like for my own entertainment.
Oh, yeah.
I would say, yeah. I think
Yeah.
I think maybe a bit of both. I think first thing is I definitely wanted to do something I enjoy doing.
Absolutely, yeah.
And it's I found that I have a lot of questions. Yeah, like one of the things that sparked near the time when I started the podcast was one of my friends was starting a like website to sell products. And I found myself having so many questions, but I also found myself being shy to ask everything because I don't know, maybe it's because I felt like wasting her time. I felt like maybe she doesn't want to share all of it. There are a lot of questions that I wanted to ask, but there are a lot of obstacles that made me shy away from that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh man, what's the way to kind of explore this and like, I guess like scratch my itch. Like, because I just felt super itchy. Like, I want to ask these questions. I want to know. But I couldn't. And I thought, okay, like there is this aspects that I like about long form conversations. And there are these aspects that I like about asking questions and kind of the natural curiosity.
Yeah.
And yeah, those things kind of made me want to start something. And I thought, because I find it interesting, because I liked Joe Rogan podcast, I like Lex Fridman podcast, and quite often I just listen to random people that I don't know about, and I end up finding those conversations super interesting. So I thought maybe other people would find this interesting too. So I would say mainly, scratching my itch, for my own entertainment, and second is kind of for others. Yeah. So and like I'm really happy to find that a lot of people do say, oh, your conversation with this person was super interesting. Yeah, kind of, I guess, unexpectedly. Yeah, so yeah, I guess accidentally putting value out there. But to me, I think I have to be interested to have the conversation.
Would you say you're a deeply curious person?
I think it sounds like it. I never considered myself very curious or anything like that, but seeing how many people are curious about things that I'm curious about, I would say, yeah, I'm more on the curious side. Yeah, because yeah, when I first went to your exhibition at the yeah, one of the exhibitions that you put on at the art center, I remember thinking, oh man, like I wonder how this makes you feel, like, you know, coming from like zero art background. I'm like, how do you feel when you paint, and how do you decide to put like a line there? Why that line instead of like a curve, you know? Why that color instead of other colors? And how do you decide on like these, like, you know, sizes of things? Why does I don't know, I just remember having like all these questions, like why does some ceramics have like ash on them and some don't? And yeah, so yeah, looking back now and looking at now, like I'm probably a bit more curious.
Okay.
Yeah, and I guess that comes useful because with these long form conversations, I find that when I listen back to myself, what I'm really glad to find that is I can see that I'm authentic. Yeah. That I'm not asking these questions for the sake of asking questions or having these conversations to put out content. It's something that I want to do anyway. And this is a good platform that allows me to do it. Nice. Yeah, so that's a long answer to your question.
How would you say, like, being a curious person, did that lead you into being a data scientist, or is that quite different?
Yeah, I think it's related. I think more, I don't know about specifically about data, but I remember in PhD that having that curiosity definitely helped because it allowed, I guess, like it's like that made me happy to do different experiments. Yeah, it's like, oh, what about this? What about that? And just trying different things out. And I wonder, because working somewhere when you're getting paid like a salary, you'll be a bit more train station. Yeah, you obviously, there's that like bit more strict time pressure on you, right? Yeah. You have to deliver products and things. Yeah. But yeah, I think it helped me throughout the research life. But I think I wonder that too. But you know, some people like Juan, for example, I feel like he's found something that's equivalent of you finding like painting. I feel like he's found something like that for himself, which is in the like machine learning space. But I don't really feel that way. I think data is really cool, it's something I really enjoy, but I like so many other things too. And I'm curious about all those other things. And one of them being, I would say, art is something that I don't do, but I'm interested in. Yeah. So
you said that you previously painted, like you haven't painted in what, 10, 15,
oh, I 20,
said 20 years or something?
Yeah, I haven't painted it in 29 years.
29 years?
Which is my age.
Yeah. Okay. I see what you mean.
Yeah, so I haven't painted in, I guess, literally forever.
Wow.
Yeah. But I remember I was always interested in painting. Like I remember when I was young in Korea, we had this book that had all the like famous paintings and some descriptions of them. And I remember like looking through it and enjoying like seeing and seeing how I feel and kind of thinking about like, oh, why does this painting make me feel this way? And finding like little Easter eggs that they describe and things. Yeah. So yeah, I remember thinking then like, okay, like this is cool, you know, this is cool. But I never really got to do it myself. Yeah.
Would you try?
Would I try? I think probably not. Right now, no plan to do it. Yeah, I just been super picky about what I pick up. Yeah, I've been. Yeah, I think already there's like you probably feel this a lot, Brendon. Like 24 hours is a day, and there's only so much you can do.
Yeah, it's not enough time.
It's not enough time. You work out, you full-time job, you cook, and it's not a lot of time. So I just been super picky about what I pick up. If I had 48 hours, like, painting would be something I'll pick up.
Okay.
Yeah, but right now, it's something that I'm enjoying and appreciating without me doing. And right now I'm happy as it is.
Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
Because I imagine podcasting must take so much time.
Oh man, it's surprisingly. I thought like, okay, I can record like 2-3 hour episode per week, or even 2 times. Okay, that's like 6 hours. That's doable. But then editing and even like going to post on social media and curating that post. Does it take a lot of time for you? Because you have your own you have your Instagram page and you kind of regularly put posts on that, right?
Kind of, yeah. It's quite tricky because you need to write what you want to say and do all the posting and scheduling and what order you want to put the paintings in, what you want the person to go through when they see your Instagram page. And what you want to communicate, and it's quite a lot of work, especially with your editing. I imagine you have to watch the whole podcast over again, and maybe even double time, and then you have to stop and cut and whatever. Or
so for me, because I keep everything as it is almost. I basically cut out the bathroom breaks and stuff. So by the way, if you need to use bathroom, let me know. Yeah. I'll probably need one soon.
Sponsored by Vitamin.
Yes, sir. Yeah, it's so very digestible. So yeah. So, but what were we talking about? So before I got sidetracked with the
talked about toilet breaks,
break.
editing.
Oh yeah, editing. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I do minimal editing, but so what I just do is I get a clip, like a highlight clip or something.
Yeah.
That's like the basically main thing that I edit out as a kind of to promote for other people to watch the episode and things. And I write out like a little bit about the guest. Yeah, but it's not much, but it takes time. It takes so much time.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's just there was. Before I started a new job recently, and before that, I took like a month break.
Wow.
So between the 2 jobs, and I tried out going full time on podcast for like a couple of weeks.
How did they go?
Oh, great! Like at first, I thought, man, I don't know if I could go full time because is there enough things to do, But yeah, I was running out of time by the end of 2 weeks.
Oh my god!
Yeah, I know, it's crazy. Yeah. But I imagine it'll be similar with your painting, right? Yeah, you would. I think we were talking about it before. You would happily go full time on it.
Yeah, I would happily go full time. Yeah, it's quite tricky because you don't have enough time in the day.
Yeah.
24 hours is not enough.
Not enough.
And sometimes you got to wait for paint to dry and
that's true.
All that kind of stuff. Even though people joke about it. My teacher was like, "Oh, you're waiting for paint to dry." I'm like, "Yes, I am. It's important."
That's a saying, right?
Yeah. That's exactly what they're saying. I had to stop a few hobbies myself.
Yeah.
I used to play a lot of volleyball and things like that.
Oh.
And I loved it. It was it made me so happy.
Yeah.
And just team interaction, and I loved the teamwork and the positivity, and it felt like it was almost a microcosm for life in a way.
What's
you go through these...
Huh? What was microcosm?
It's like a small compacted version of life. You learn teamwork, you learn how to communicate, you learn how to, experience highs and lows and disappointment and victories. And I just loved it so much, and just the techniques and things you'd go through, going back into the flow state sometimes and things like that. And I had to recently stop because... Well, when I decided to go more full-time painting, I'm actually currently working part-time as a paying job. and I've decided to go full-time painting. So I'm not earning as much as I could.
Oh,
But
okay.
if I went completely full-time, that would be the dream.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So full time.
Yeah.
True.
So there's not a lot of time.
Do you think you will eventually get there?
I hope so.
That's what you're working
yeah,
towards,
it's quite hard because you got to navigate like galleries, shows, awards, just connections as well, and it's quite a lot of work to do. Just painting alone is quite difficult, and to take on all that other stuff is quite hard.
Yeah. Oh, but it's good that that you are able to do it, because not a lot of artists would make it to that level, right?
Very, very fortunate.
Yeah.
I think maybe it's my stubbornness that like would not give up. Maybe my sort of grit, as they say, because a lot of people doubt themselves, and I've certainly doubted myself. Maybe I should give this up. Maybe I should get a proper job, and to be financially stable and all that kind of stuff. It's quite a gamble. Like it's going in an unconventional route in society, and it's quite difficult. But going full time, would be the dream.
Yeah, good on you. I heard this saying. Someone say, if you want what was it? I'm gonna mess this up, but I think it went something like, if you want an easy, like a career progression, then become a brain surgeon. Yeah. So I think what that, no disrespect to brain surgeon, they study a lot, they work hard, but I think that what they were trying to say was that with a lot of jobs, difficult jobs like brain surgeon or being a doctor, lawyer, kind of typical like Asian parents, like ideal, jobs for their kids. It's difficult, but there's almost like a set path to it.
Yeah.
You study law at school, and become is it associate or something, and then there's like a path that you can take that other people have taken.
Yeah.
But with artists, I guess that's less uncertain.
Yeah. For sure.
So there's difficulty come with that, but at the same time, because of that, could be very rewarding, especially when you love doing it.
Yeah. Just the uncertainty is like quite daunting sometimes, and you never know when your sort of next pay, or if you'll sell something, or it's quite difficult. But very fortunate that I've stuck with it.
Hell yeah.
Like in the first year of uni, like half drop off, and then the next year is like another half.
Yeah.
And even towards you, when you get a degree, not many people will continue making art, Some people will just go off and do their own thing, or something's completely in a different field, and by the time you get a certain age, people keep dropping off.
Yeah.
And so it's quite rare, and I'm very fortunate to have this path that I have.
For sure.
I'm extremely grateful.
Yeah. One of my friends that I told about earlier that I was living with, Denim, he studied music.
Yeah.
And then after university, he was lucky enough to go being a full-time musician.
Wow.
But now he's stopped for like a different reason. But not everyone gets to do that, pursuing art. So no, it's awesome. And I'm so happy that you're getting to do it, because I'm a big fan of yours, Brendon. I don't know if I can say big fan, but when I see your art, I'm a big fan of that. But I feel like I would like to go to more of your exhibitions and things.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I'll invite you.
Oh, heck yes.
Yeah.
Heck
and
yes.
always come by to my studio if you'd want. And for the listeners out there, Parnell Studio.
Panel Studio.
Yeah, just literally the Parnell train station, and knock on my door, and you can come in, have a look if you'd like.
Heck yes. Yeah, I'll definitely do that. What makes I think we were talking about this before. What makes good art?
Oh, also a very intimidating question. If I can speak from my personal point of view, and what I consider about my own art, is if I can connect with it, if I feel a certain way, if it's communicated well, then I think it's successful. And if I can translate that to other people, and if they feel connected to it, they can relate, they can, feel, then I think that's what makes it good, in my personal opinion.
Do you think each artist has different definition of good art?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, people can be technically good, people can be like theoretically good, have good ideas, and it's a whole bunch of, it's what you define it to be, I suppose. Yeah.
How about as an audience then?
Yeah.
Like when for you looking at other people's art, what makes good art for you?
Just basically the same. If it's communicated well,
Right.
the feelings, emotions,
Damn.
if they can connect with it, then I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if they appreciate it. But, not all art you might like. It's like tastes as well.
Yeah.
Like, as I said before, like watching a movie or something like that, and you can like it and you can't you don't have to like it. Like, it's not a really big deal. There's like a whole faux pas, like, oh, like a bit snobbish, like, oh, I'm sophisticated, I know art, but like it's not that complicated. Sure, there's a story behind it, there's a story, but if you connect with it, you connect with it.
Right.
If you like it, you like it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's not so complicated. Yeah. And it's just simple as that, really.
Yeah. True. Yeah, no, that's interesting. I think that's one of the best answers I've ever heard. With
really?
art. Yeah, because I've had some friends who studied like philosophy.
Yeah.
And but I don't know, that never really satisfied me. But yeah, I think it's interesting here that you have a definition for a good art for yourself when you create your art, and that makes sense to apply that similar definition when you look at other people's art and kind of judge the goodness of it based on that. Yeah.
Like, there's personal successes, there's like a different, if it relates to other people, but everyone has their own subjective feeling. Art is completely subjective.
Yeah.
So it doesn't make sense to put rigid rules and things like that onto appreciating art. Like, it's just up to you, really, and up to the audience and whoever's is curious about art. And if they don't like it, it's fine. Like, there's no pressure. You don't have to like art. Like, it's fine.
Yeah. I'm gonna ask something that's potentially touchy, Brendon.
Okay. Oh, deep breath.
It's to do with your art and who gets to own your art.
Okay. NFTs. Just kidding.
So one of the first exhibitions I went to was at, I don't know if it's still called the same, but it was called James Wallace Center.
Ah, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I don't know if you heard, but he was convicted of crime. I think he's right? Is that the
very,
right?
very touchy.
Yeah, convicted of crime, right?
Yeah.
And he's back then, you had a support from him.
Yeah.
And he supported your art, as well as he bought pieces from you, right? Bought paintings and ceramics of you, right? Is that correct?
I think he bought, maybe one or two paintings. Yeah.
How does that make you, like, is that something that you have thought about? Like,
it's quite tricky. I have not I haven't tried thinking about it, to be honest. But it is, very touchy. Like, it's not good that he's done the things he's done. That's awful, and feel sorry for the, victims.
Yeah.
Like that. It's just awful. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know how to sort of mix my art into that.
Yeah.
What he's done is what he's done, and that's terrible.
True. So there's nothing you don't feel too much about, like, because I think you put so much emotion and personal feeling to your art.
Yeah.
And someone who has done what he's done, owning your like artwork, like that, you can separate that. Like those two don't.
I mean, it definitely doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
But there is a transition into, because the place that he owned before is no longer part of him anymore.
Right.
And so it's moved on to just the something art center.
Yeah.
And so a whole bunch of different people are running that space and owning the artwork and things like that, I think. I'm not completely sure, but that's what I've seen from social media and things like that. So it's in their hands now, I think.
Ah, okay.
So, but I'm not technically sure about the exact ownership.
Right.
But if better people have the artwork and can display it, then that's all right.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a quite difficult thing to navigate.
Yeah.
Yeah,
For sure.
And I'm not sure in myself. Like, definitely doesn't feel good, but also not sure how to navigate that situation.
Yeah. I guess you can't always, even when someone is not convicted of something, legally, you don't know if that person, if someone wants to buy your art, you don't know if they're a good person, bad person, maybe they're a dick at work and home, like
Could be.
Maybe they're the nicest person in the world. Like, like there's, that makes sense that there's so much you can do. But yeah, no, I wondered that. Like, because especially when you put something that's personal out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, thank you for, like, I'm grateful for hearing your input, and
I don't think I provided much information, but
at least a little bit, at least a little bit. But something that, I know it can be very touchy. So,
because he's owned like thousands and thousands of artwork around New Zealand, one of the largest contributors to the art industry in New Zealand, and the place used to rent out to like Auckland Uni and things like that. I know they've kind of retracted those sort of paintings and given them back and didn't want anything to do with it, things like that. But
yeah. Interesting. Well, damn, I don't want to end on that note, well, here's so with before I ask you the last question, Brendon.
Okay.
How did you had your? I want to talk to you about ether.
Oh, yes.
Is that how you say it? Ether, right?
Yeah, ether.
Yeah. So, can you tell us about that?
Yeah. So, ether was my most recent exhibition at the Trish Clark Gallery a couple months ago. The exhibition was inspired by the Karekare residency. I've made the majority of the paintings at the residency. It filled out like the whole gallery, which was a huge step for me because previously I've only occupied the front room. But this time I got a solo exhibition occupying the whole gallery, which was very intimidating, but I'm glad it worked out. The show's about just the sort of spiritual feeling that I kind of felt in Karekare. It feels quite like a sacred place in a way. I don't know how to describe that other than that. If you just have to go there and then just witness the sort of nature, the kind of seclusion, there's not many like street lights at all. It's quite pitch black once you get out there at nighttime.
Can anyone go there? Is it open to public or?
It was open to public, but because of the landslides and the flooding and things like that, a lot of the roads are quite damaged, which is very unfortunate. And I feel so sorry for the people living there. Some houses even fell down from the hills and things like that. Part of the exhibition was to promote this Karekare place and like kind of honor that place and the community that's given me so much. Because they were so welcoming. They like invited me to their house and had conversations and teas and things like that. And it really helped me get through my sort of rough period in my slump in my art career. And I feel like fully restored because of this place and the people. So and the organization and in arts and Karekare house residency, they were so fantastic. So the show really wanted to honor the place and the people. So there's a lot of landscapes and things like that influenced by nature, just naturally. Like sometimes you're subconsciously painting and in that flow state and something comes out, and like the thing with art is like the environment that you're in really influences the way you paint, because the information through your visual, retinas enters your brain and puts it into your subconscious. And then over time, when your brain processes that information, sometimes it naturally comes out into your visual aesthetics when you paint. So it was all thanks to like the place and the people. And I actually wanted to give part of the proceeds to the Karekare Relief Fund from Give a Little.
Following the flooding.
Following the flooding.
Oh, good on you.
Yeah, so to repair roads so people can witness, the place. Just even the community itself, like it was hard for them to get through to their house. They had to walk miles to get home. So yeah, just to honor the people. And the show, was about the spiritual nature, the energy, as we say again.
Yeah. But it sounds like that house has a lot of like a energy there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also used to be the old Dorothy Butler's house, which is a famous children's book writer.
Oh, cool.
And has a lot of history through there, a lot of like almost antique furniture and things like that that's
cool.
left from there.
Really?
Yeah.
Damn.
So feeling that history of the place, really influenced my artwork. And the show's about honoring everything that was during that time.
And how did you decide on the name Ether?
So Ether for me was, Ether is almost the spiritual, unseen atmosphere. So a lot of my work is about atmosphere and feeling and environments and things like that. I felt like there was a strong presence at Karekare, almost spiritual atmosphere. So for me, Ether just meant that spiritual atmosphere and the connection to nature and things like that. And there's something that's unseen, that's beyond the painting, that hopefully you can pick up as from the viewer's perspective. Yeah.
How difficult is it to? Because I think the I don't know what the right word for it, but the piece that you like, the cover piece that you put out for the Ether, like a poster, is like a brown, like a brown painting.
Yeah. The two sides and the red and the.
Is that the one? I remember seeing like a brown, like on the background of the Ether,
and then it said Ether on the thing.
Yeah. How difficult was it to choose one painting out of all the paintings that you did to kind of represent the whole exhibition?
To be honest, it wasn't that hard.
Really?
Yeah.
You thought this is the one?
It just took some time. To me, I got that sense of ether, the feeling that I wanted to portray in that painting. Even though it's quite simple, there seems to be like a almost colored veil behind it. And so that veil is almost but you question like, what's behind that veil? What's that? What's behind the curtains kind of thing? And then for me, that was ether. Like that's the emotion that I wanted to get through.
Oh, that's how you know.
Yeah.
That's how you know.
That's how you know.
That's how you know. If you know this is the one, then sometimes you have those moments that you feel it.
Yeah.
And you're just sure of it for no reason.
Yeah.
I guess there are reasons, but you know, sometimes you're more sure than other times.
Yeah. It's an intuition, subconscious thinking, processing.
Yeah. Intellect like and all those things working together.
In concert, yeah.
Yeah. It's been, like I said in the beginning of the podcast, I've been wanting to have an artist on for a while, and I couldn't have picked a better person.
Oh my gosh.
Brendon, like especially when I feel like it's pretty cool because having owned one of your pieces for several years, I feel like that's given me kind of something, like you say, in the back of my mind, something to brew over. Yeah, but I think what I find really cool again is that you've been doing like you've been growing as an artist, but like like you said, like whether it's stubborn, you want to call it stubbornness or having your own style, like it's really cool that there's like a certain underlying style that you've kind of kept up with. So that to me shows that you are doing this mainly out of your passion, and this is something that you resonate with. Do you think you've grown in this style? Like what do you think you've say, looking at like your 2018 painting on your website versus 2023 paintings, how do you think you've grown during the time?
Like in terms of just painting?
Yeah, in terms of just painting, like, or because you value a lot about the communication side of things, communicating to the viewers how you felt at the time. Like, yeah, in terms of that as well, and the techniques and things.
Yeah. As I said, it was a constant exploration. It's constant research, a lot of investigation. You have a lot of hypothesis of what it might turn out to be, but it always turns into something else. But then every time it turns into something else, it's always a learning. And so just going through that period of painting from 2018 to now, like you just can't help but to learn if you're curious, like yourself. Like if you're deadly curious, you're wondering about things, you question things. Why is it like this? Why is that like that? How can I change that? Or, you can't help but learn. And just more research, reading and visual research and getting inspired by other people, talking to other artists. I feel like one of the greatest assets to an artist is their community and especially the other artists that you're connected with. And if you're constantly talking about art and different ideas, and you kind of sharpen those ideas as well.
Yeah.
So the quality of the ideas become good.
True.
And yeah, it's just a constant process. And I feel like I've learned many things from that. And I've learned how to communicate those feelings and those ideas more clearly.
Right.
And become also writing's helpful.
Writing.
Surprisingly, I hate writing.
Okay.
Absolutely hate it.
Just like writing about your pieces?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, talking about it, this is very helpful. And writing about it clarifies your ideas. So that's also quite helpful. And just everything in concert coming together has made a tremendous sort of output of the paintings.
Interesting. So do you think 2023 paintings are better than 2018 paintings?
For sure.
For sure?
For sure.
So looking at 2018 paintings, what would you say? Like what could have gone better?
Ooh. It's just the experience, really. Like, it's not something you can say, oh, do this and then you'll get better. Like, it's something you have to live through, go through. You have to experience it for yourself. Just, techniques as well. Yeah. Brushwork and all that kind of stuff.
Interesting.
And, yeah. It's just all experience, really.
Yeah.
I can't really say, if I told my 2018 self, if you did this, then you would have done a better painting.
Yeah.
I can't really say that, actually, because that person hasn't gone through what I've been through to get to the point where I am. Yeah.
Panel train station. Yeah. I don't know if it's a placebo, but look, I was comparing your 2018 paintings to 2023 paintings.
Yeah.
Like side by side. And to me, 2023 paintings seem more, it gives me an impression that it's more intentional.
Oh.
That's the impression that I get, like overall.
That might be right.
Yeah?
I think
would
so.
you say so?
I guess there's a lot more thought and intention
Yeah.
now than I was before, because 2018 I was kind of just starting out in uni, kind of don't know what I'm doing, kind of like, well, I didn't even have any ideas. I have this feeling, but I have no ideas. I haven't researched or explored different ideas. So I guess that was much more exploratory. even though 2023 is more intentional exploration.
I see.
So I guess you read it correctly.
Yeah. Interesting. Do you reckon there are more straight lines these days?
Yeah.
Yeah? Would you say so?
Yeah. It's mimicking the sort of interior spaces.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Oh, I've got one more question for you, Brendon.
Okay.
But before doing that, do you want to plug out your Instagram and your website and LinkedIn and things out there?
You can follow me at Brendon.Leung on Instagram and brendonleung.com for my website.
Cool. And I'll have those in the show notes too. Well, the last question, Brendon. Oh, by the way, like, how do you sell your pieces? Can anyone buy? Do you have like a gallery that we can look through if people want to buy your pieces? Or
you can contact Trish Clark.
Okay.
Yeah. Just look up the website in Google, and you can contact her.
Sweet. So there's you can look through there and you can see what's on sale and things like that.
Yeah. You can always come in, have a look if there's any paintings available, or just contact me if you want.
There you go. Cool. Easy as. So Brendon, thank you so much for your time. And here's your last question.
Thank you.
Do you have a nephew or niece?
Yes.
You do?
I have a nephew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Say they want nephew. That's a female, right? No, that's a niece is female and nephew is male, right?
Yeah.
So say he comes up to you and says, "I want to be an artist just like you."
Okay.
What's an advice for these future artists?
Oh, deep question. It's so multifaceted that it's hard to. If he had that true passion, I'd say trust your intuition. I think
that's a word.
Trust yourself.
Trust yourself.
Yeah. If this is the path for you and you know it, then trust.
Intuition is the word that we've thrown around a lot.
Yeah.
This conversation. So sums it up nicely.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Brendon. Thank you for the lesson that I had, the ceramic lesson I had with you. Thank you for the beautiful jar that I got from you. And thank you for this conversation. And it's been great. And I feel like I learned a lot. And it's been super interesting for me too. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Pascal.
Thank
really
you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
See ya. Thank you for listening to my conversation with Brendon Leung. And thank you, Brendon, for your time, for being on my show, and for sharing your insight. If you would like to follow and check out Brendon's work, please do see the link in the description. You definitely won't regret it. And if you would like to follow me, you can do so on whichever platform you listen to your podcasts on, as well as Instagram. On all platforms, I am Everything Goes with Pascal. Thanks everyone again for listening, and I'll catch you in the next one. See ya.